Have you guys ever heard of Dia de los Muertos? Dia de los Muertos, the Day of the Dead. It is not a Mexican version of Halloween. Let me get that right out of your head from the top. Though the two are related annually, so they happen around the same time of the year, the events differ greatly in traditions. And yes, I'm reading from some notes that I got. Whereas Halloween embraces um, mischief and tricks and trick or treat. It's give me a trick or give me a treat. That is the last night of October. The Day of the Dead festival unfolds over the first 2 days of November in an explosion of color and life altering joy. It explodes over the first 2 days of November, an explosion of color and life altering joy. Sure, the theme is death. Yes, it is of death. It is specifically of death of our loved one. But the point is, it demonstrates love, respect, and the missing and longing that we have for our family members, for deceased family members and friends. All over Mexico, throughout the towns and cities throughout Mexico, people who participate in the program, they will don funky makeup, costumes. They hold parades. They have parties. They sing and dance, and they make offerings to their loved ones. This is such a beautiful tradition. Dia, Dia de los Muertos is the Day of the Dead. It's a celebration of life and death. It is a day to celebrate life, the life you lived with that person, and also celebrate their death. So you're remembering them and you're celebrating them in their death. While the holiday originated in Mexico, it is celebrated all over Latin America with colorful skulls, skeletons. This is both here in Spanish, but I don't know how to pronounce it. So let me talk to you about some of the hits of that weekend. The holiday dates back thousands of years. I personally believe it has a religious connotation to it, but I'll get into that in a little bit. The altars at the person's gravesite are very, very important. They also use this orange mum. I'm going to call it a mum flower, is very important to have this bright, bright orange flower. I do not know the importance of that. You guys can send me some notes here. They use a lot of masks, colorful, beautiful painted skull mask. Women, and I've seen men do it too, will paint their face to look like a mask. They even add the diamonds around their eyebrows. Families will bring food to the dead. People will dress in costumes. They decorate the streets with all of these beautiful streamers that are passed all through the street. Mexico cities host this iconic parade, so you can go and see it if you're in town. Other communities, they celebrate in different ways. Okay. My connection to this date is very limited and small, and I probably should have called my mother before I recorded this, but I didn't. My entire life, we have celebrated All Saints Day in the Catholic religion is something that you celebrate. It is for all of the saints that are in heaven because they have in the Catholic religion a large list of saints that they follow. But you also have heard it pronounced as All Souls Day. And so I think both things are happening. So it's the time for you to pray in remembrance of the people that have passed on before you and um, and celebrate all the saints that are there. Burial culture in New Orleans and the ritual in southern Louisiana was predominantly Catholic and has a long intrinsic uh, tradition of high water tables. So a lot of times the burial sites are not under the ground because the water tables are so high. So they put these burials on top. But it was not uncommon for years for you to go to the tombstones and they would clean them with lime and with water because of the years of these huge tombstones being on top of the ground. they would get mildew and get discolored. So they would go and clean them at this time of the year. It was also important for them to move away the weeds, take out any dead flower arrangements, and really just spruce up the grave sites. In the years past, women would make wreaths of crepe paper or wax paper and sell them at the churches and cemeteries that people would place along the gravesite for Saints' Day, for All Saints' Day. But the tradition waned and more plastic flowers started being used. But my tradition was this: what it brought me to it was my mother and her sisters would always call the local florist in Louisiana, in the small town that I was from, and make sure that every single grave of someone that they knew, even people they had not met, but their mothers were putting the flowers on the grave and put flowers on each one of these graves. Hear me out. I've actually had cousins in my age and younger who are in Louisiana at this time, and they take part in this tradition and they love it. All Saints Day recognizes is recognized as a state holiday in Louisiana, and so it's very important that you go and put these whatever you want. Put your flower arrangements. They used to do big parades. They don't do them as much anymore, but some towns still do the parades. But it is extremely important that you do. One day I jokingly said to my dad, the perpetual care, and he was like, "Don't do the perpetual care. Give me the money now." Um, They make a big deal of it. It is to remember the saints. And as families, a lot of families would pack picnics and spend the day visiting other friends while they were there cleaning the grave sites, seeing other family members that they hadn't seen in a long time, and just remembering their loved ones, not only keeping the memory of the deceased one alive, but transmit family lures across the generational lines. Children learn their genealogy at the cemeteries as their parents recount accolades about their ancestors. Oh my gosh, how amazing is that? How amazing is that? We often hear, don't speak ill will of the dead. Don't talk about the dead. Don't talk about your person that has died. And so quite often what happens is the griever is dying to talk about their person. They're dying to share stories about their person. But what's happened to them most times is they don't have a safe place to talk. What if we had set aside days where we were actually celebrating them? Oh, I don't know, November 1st and November 2nd. I just thought that these traditions were so beautiful. I really wanted to talk about them with you. One of the things that I know to be true from my own personal experience, when my dad went through hospice, when he was in hospice, uh, they offer you, if your person died and through a hospice program, most hospices offer you a 1 year bereavement program. So it's a 1 year grief support group where you can come, go to grief groups. They have grief activities, they do crafts, they do all those sort of things while you're grieving in that first year. It's open to most anyone of the family that would like to join and participate in this program. And I know a lot of grievers I've met, they've come through that program or they've been through that program. But here's the thing, my friends. At the end of that program, at about 1 year, probably 3 different times throughout the year, but when your person falls into that, they offer you, and I'm going to call it a day of remembering the dead, where what they did for us was they asked for a photo and they asked for an actual a bio on our dad, a story, a history. Who was he? What was he all about? What did he do? What did he like to do? And they actually had like a little tea. They invited everyone over. It was in the afternoon. It was like started at 4 o'clock, and they actually put out a meal. We got to meet other grievers whose loved ones had gone through this same hospice program. A couple of the directors spoke. They talked about grief. We all hugged. Everyone shared their person. But at the end, there was a video where they absolutely put up the photos of the people who had died in that much amount of time. So let's say it was 6 months. So all the people who had died within the last 6 months, whether you attended the program or not, they put your person up. And then they read the little bio that you wrote about your person. It was absolutely a beautiful event. It was honoring my dad. They were honoring my dad. These people who didn't know him, who didn't have anything to do with him, who didn't know where he lived, what he was about, they didn't know he had 5 children. They didn't know he'd been married to his wife for 53 years. They didn't know he was a devout Catholic and went to his church. There were things about him that they didn't know, but they were honoring him for us. And I think that was such a beautiful thing. My friends, we have to remember that honoring our loved one is absolutely okay. It's okay to still celebrate their birthday. It is okay to still have people come over and you do your own celebration in memory and in honor of them. It's okay for you to buy a birthday cake for them. It is absolutely okay for you to buy a birthday gift for them. It is okay to still buy them Christmas gifts. Whatever your heart is telling you to do, it is absolutely okay. But by all means, celebrate your person. Pick out a few days throughout the year where you're going to choose to celebrate them. Maybe it's going to be at Christmas time. Maybe it's going to be at Thanksgiving time. Maybe it'll be on the Day of the Dead. Maybe you'll pick up this tradition for yourself and start honoring your person within your home, with some family and friends and close people by. But whatever it is that you decide to do, I just want you to know it's okay. I loved looking into this Day of the Dead. What actually got me going with it was a friend of mine who's out at her grief support group. They told her they were doing this on November 1st. And so she's going to be going to her grief support group with a picture of her husband. And they're going to be having Mexican food, and everybody's bringing their persons to celebrate. And they're doing a Dia de los Muertos celebration in their group. And I was like, that is so cool. Could you imagine if this was normal for us? If it was typical for us to celebrate our persons, to really celebrate them, not just once a year, but every day in our hearts, once a week, as often as we wanted to, every time we got together as a family, we set a place for him. It would be okay, my friends. It absolutely is. So take this podcast, do with it as you will, but find a place to honor your person where you see fit, where it is important for you, where you want to honor them. And maybe it's just making their favorite carrot cake cupcakes. I made those for Sharon once. Maybe it's just making those cupcakes and sharing those with all your family and friends. Whatever you decide to do, it is absolutely okay. But my friends, honor your loved ones. Okay, in the link below, I'm putting the link to my Facebook group, also an appointment calendar. If you want to talk about celebrating your loved one, but you're not really comfortable with it, I'm the person for you. Absolutely. I also have my Forever Change program going on. We have a class starting on November 28th. We have a class starting on December 18th. So we have 2 classes starting before the end of the year that you could absolutely jump in and get to be a part of one of them. I'll put the link to Forever Change in there as well. Honor your person, my friends, and thank you for allowing me to be here with you.